you hooked for a while. With every take, every truth she'll crack. She's spinning tales with a funny attack. From the silver screen to the podcast track, she's the queen of the scene, there's no turning back. A Mac talking smack, yeah, she's taking the stage. With a groovy vibe, she's the talk of the age. Reality's a game, but she's never the same. She's breaking it down while she's calling the names. From the crazy twists on the latest show to the deep dive doc that you gotta know, Aymack's got the lowdown, she's bringing the heat. With a smile and a wink, she's keeping it sweet. She's got the rhythm, got the jokes on track. With a heart full of fire and a mind that won't slack. In every line, every fact, every laugh she packs. She's rocking the waves, never looking back. Aymackk talking smack, yeah, she's taking the stage. With a groovy vibe, she's the talk of the age. Reality's a game, but she's never the same. She's breaking it down while she's calling the names. And a story to tell. She's the voice you need when the lights start to swell. From the highs to the lows, she's ringing the bell. Aymack's got the goods and she's doing it well. Aymackk talking smack, yeah, she's taking the stage. With a bluesy vibe, she's the talk of the age. Reality's a game, but she's never the same. She's breaking it down while she's calling the name. She's Aymackk talking smack, the queen of the show. With a heart full of fire, she's ready to go. From the screen to your ears, she's stealing the show. Aymack's got the smack and she's letting it flow.
Hey guys, how's it going? Happy Saturday. Thanks for joining me. So there has been an update in Adnan's case. And most of you know, this case has just gotten me from the first time I heard about it. Wrongful convictions are definitely something that, I don't know, it's hard to watch. So there was an update in his case. We'll go over a little bit of the case, kind of in a general sense of what happened, how we got here, and then go over what the news was. Hey, So Flo, I hope your party was good. Hey, K-Braze, Okie, Pookie, happy belated birthday again, Pookie. Hey, Emmy. Thanks, guys. I know the intro song I've been holding on for a little bit, but I love the harmonica and stuff, so I was really excited to debut that. Okay, so Adnan Syed. So his case was highlighted by the podcast Serial, and that was, I think 2014, and so... And I think if it weren't for Serial covering this case, Adnan would probably still be in prison. He would still be in prison for a crime he didn't commit. I believe he didn't commit. I believe that there's no evidence to prove he committed this crime and what have you. So Serial covered it in 2014. It was about a girl named Heyman Lee. She was 18 years old at the time, back in January 13th of 1999. She went missing, seemingly just leaving from school. She was headed to pick up her cousin, I think from kindergarten, and never picked up never ended up making it to the cousin's school. So the cousin's school called the family, and then she was kind of declared missing. I don't know. It seems as though when it is somebody who is 18, it's kind of slow moving usually, to declare a missing person, because they are an adult. They can, missing themselves. They can leave on their own accord. So it was a little slow moving in the beginning. And then it really kind of ramped up when they actually found her body. I believe it was 6 weeks later in Leakin Park. And then that's when the case really started rolling. And in my opinion, they just kind of honed in on one person that kind of in their mind made sense. Her ex-boyfriend. He was 17 years old at the time, and just latched onto it, and kind of almost in the Karen Reed trial, they made the evidence fit the case rather than, following the evidence and what the evidence tells us. So he was convicted after a mistrial, also very Karen Reed. So his first trial ended in a mistrial. Second trial, he was convicted of first-degree murder. He was arrested at the age of 17, and he was released from prison in 2022 after his case was dismissed by a judge due to basically a Brady violation. So there was, hey, Miss Leah, thanks for showing love. Yes, exactly, Pookie Tunnel Vision. And I haven't watched the Wire. I know there's a series, kind of about the police force in Baltimore. And, I think they might be a little bit known for misconduct. Some of the detectives that investigated this case have been sued by, former wrongfully convicted inmates that have been exonerated. They've been now sued because of, evidence that they might have fabricated and things like that. Oh, yikes. Oh, goodness. Yeah, it was that bad. Hey, Grandma. Yes, smish the like. Smishy, smishy. So... Yes, so there was a Brady violation in his case. There was a note, I guess, in the prosecutor's files in which, and it kind of opened up because the city of Maryland was doing basically a program where if you were incarcerated as a juvenile with a life sentence, they would look at your case again, give it a second look. And that's how this was kind of highlighted, that there was a note in the prosecution's files saying that there could have been they had two other suspects that were not disclosed to Adnan's team, that would have had means and motive to kill Haymon Lee. So it's just a mess. So anywho, what we're gonna do first is we're gonna go through this, and let me get the link of this channel. Actually, let's see. I'll do the link. So this is from the felony files. Oh Lord, I hate when they have the trailer and it just plays right away. So let's share this. I think that worked. Hey Jonesy. Okay, so this first video is going to be from the felony files, and it kind of a little bit summarizes. So HBO did a documentary on this case called The Case Against Adnan Syed. It was 4 parts. So this, I believe, kind of summarized it. Kind of shows you, it'll be interesting because those that have listened to Serial, you'll kind of see the players in this clip. So here we go. Hey Ryan, thanks for being here.
So he parks the car there, then what?
Okay, so first off, this is Jay. So this is police interview of Jay Wilds. He's the literal only reason why they convicted Adnan, because of his story. That's the only thing they really had in cell phone tower pings. But you kind of see in a lot of the things that have come out that they kind of made Jay's story fit the cell phone pings. So it's like, was his story really that ironclad?
On the way home.
Hey, True Texany Side. Okay, so Jay's basically saying, this is what we did that day. I picked him up. We threw out the shovels and stuff that we used to bury her. And then this is Jennifer Pusateri, which I feel like, I don't know. Jen is a tough one for me because I think she just believes what Jay told her. She's kind of the only weird puzzle piece in the story, because I'm like, why? I don't know why Jen would lie for Jay. So he retained for when he was initially arrested, and he was actually denied seeing Adnan. He said, I'm here representing, so-and-so, the family hired me. And they told him, sorry, my words. They said he needs to ask for you by name, and he hasn't asked for you by name. It's like, because he doesn't know I exist yet. And that was a theme throughout Serial. A lot of these people that, either had knowledge of things that happened that day or spoke to somebody, they were never questioned by the police. That was like such a common theme. Nobody came to talk to me. No one asked me questions. And of course, now, so many years later, the details are not going to be as clear. Hey, Road Rash, good to see you. It's that he's at a pool hall. Adnan rolls up and is like, yo, I got to show you this thing, and it's a body. So this is Jen Pusateri later in life. I think they interviewed her for this documentary in 2020. And then she says, well, I don't know, Jay told me about it, that it happened at Best Buy. So already Jay's freaking story is just all over the place, changing, because these are the tiny details where people are like, I don't know, maybe that happened. But these tiny details are what makes this whole case. So basically, Adnan, they're saying, so he leaves school. So school gets out at 2:15. He somehow gets Hay to drive him to Best Buy, and by 2:36, so it's like 21 minutes, Hay's dead. They're saying this happened in 21 minutes by 2:36 p.m. because he made, his cell phone got a call, and they were all incoming calls. No numbers attached to incoming calls, literally just said incoming calls. He got an incoming call at 2:36. So they're saying that is when Adnan called Jay, because Jay had Adnan's phone that day, said, come and get me, I killed her. But then we also have Asia McClain saying that she was, talking to him in the library until 2:45. Why would you help somebody conceal a murder? You don't know him like that. Which is very true. It's like, why would Jay just all of a sudden, for somebody that, I think they were acquaintances, more or less, Adnan bought weed from Jay. So why would you help somebody like that? Yeah, exactly, Kit Kat. Thanks for being here. Jay's story never made sense to me either. And it changed. And I believe, and this is what Rabia has said. So Rabia, who is kind of Adnan's advocate, she's a real advocate, Betty. She kind of helped Adnan's story get out and everything. She believes that the police fed Jay the story.
It's not like Jen calling and needing help or,
Me too, if you don't help me.
So Stephanie was Jay's girlfriend at the time, also Adnan's best friend. So Jay's trying to say that Adnan was like, this could happen to your girlfriend if you don't help me, which I don't know. We'll watch some of Adnan. Adnan did kind of his own little press conference. So we'll hear him. And I know, everybody's different. Serial killers could be eloquent. And it's So again, right after Jay, or 3 days after Jay is saying that, he basically told, Adnan basically said, you know, if you don't help me, this could happen to Stephanie. And then he leaves Adnan in a car with Stephanie, and that doesn't make sense.
He's either going to be the person who went along with this murder, knew about it before.
So she was on the HBO documentary that came out at the end, and she tried to get him to talk about it. She said something about like he was gonna get caught up with something. I think because he was selling weed, that basically kind of what he said to her was that he was about to get caught up for like a drug charge, and so the cops were basically like, you're gonna help us solve this in, you know, air bunnies, quote unquote, solve this crime, and then, you know, we won't charge you for it. And I also heard somewhere that they were telling Jay they were going to charge him with the murder and ask for the death penalty. So that was like another kind of thing that they had over Jay for him to help them.
Beforehand.
The thing that everyone's saying is that Jay knew where the car was because Hay went missing along with her car. But I think the cops knew because actually, I think this was also in the documentary. There were where Hazley God. I've been off work for a week, so I haven't like had to talk in public or to people except for my husband. So excuse me while I get myself together. So where her car was found, there were multiple calls for service around kind of the lot. So like stolen car, you know, this, that, and the other thing. They actually pulled up all the calls for service that would have been around where her car was parked. They would have found her car. Like, there's no way that car and the license plate would not have been. They wouldn't have, you know, they would have came across it. So they knew where her car was the whole time, in my opinion. Okay, so these are the crash daddies of the case. Just kidding. But these were private investigators that were hired, I think, by the documentary team. So it was Amy Berg that did the documentary. And so... Oh, no. Okay, I'll be back. I think we're back. Are we back? Sorry, guys. I had a feeling that might happen because I don't know how that... What are they called? The felony files? I don't know how they got... I don't know how they got that video on there because it was all taken from the HBO documentary. So that's probably what happened. Alrighty. So we'll switch to... we'll switch to a different video. This is... from WJZ, which I think is it like a news outlet? Yes, so CBS News Baltimore, basically. Okay, so we're back. I'm surprised that Felony Files got to keep that video up. Okay, so this is, I should probably look at it first. So this is from 2022. So this is called From Conviction to Freedom, a timeline of the Adnan Syed case. So this was after he had been exonerated in 2022 based on the Brady violation.
As we come on the air tonight, we are putting a period on a story WJC has covered for nearly 2.5 decades. Adnan Syed is a free man. He spent more than 20 years in prison for the killing of his former high school girl.
And I will tell you guys, I kind of shed a tear when he finally got released from prison. So that was video of him walking out after being in prison for what, 23 years? He was arrested at the age of 17 and he got out, I think, at the age of 42. So.
Girlfriend Hayman Lee. And tonight, all charges against him are dropped. Hello, everyone. I'm Vic Carter.
And I'm going to rewind it a little bit because I don't know if you guys know who this girl is.
As we come on the air tonight, we are putting a period.
Okay. Do you guys see her, this right here, the blonde? I think her name's Laura Niedermeyer. She was, you guys may recognize her. She is the lawyer that took over Brendan Dassey's case from Making a Murderer.
On a story WJC has covered for nearly 2.5 decades. Adnan Syed is a free man. He spent more than 20
Like, how amazing would that be after being in prison for so long?
years in prison for the killing of his former high school girlfriend Hayman Lee. And tonight, all charges against him are dropped. Hello, everyone. I'm Vic Carter.
And I'm Denise Koch. Welcome to those of you watching on CBS News Baltimore and on WJZ TV. Now, you just watched the moment Syed was released from prison last month. Tonight, City State's Attorney Marilyn Mosby says new DNA testing results show Syed's DNA is, quote, not a part of this case.
WJZ is live.
So, mind you, Marilyn Mosby has her own issues. She's going through some shit right now, with, you know, her own mishaps. But yes, so she held a press conference. She filed a motion to dismiss all the charges. It was amazing. It was like, holy shit, after this long, like, I honestly never, I thought poor Adnan was gonna, you know, spend the rest of his life in prison. But it was finally the glimmer of hope.
Let's get right to Amador Burnett in downtown Baltimore with reaction from Syed's family and close friends. Amador.
Vic and Denise, we spoke with.
Sorry, I forgot to say that, like that lady said, they finally tested the DNA and nothing matched Adnan.
Yusuf Syed earlier today, that's Adnan Syed's brother, and he told us they found out about this when someone knocked on their door giving them the good news for that family. They told us that they were absolutely shocked. We've also been told that Adnan Syed was also shocked. Yusuf told us, as for the future plans for Adnan, he thinks his brother wants to go back to school to get his bachelor's degree and possibly study law. Earlier today, State's Attorney Marilyn Mosby broke down why she decided to drop the charges. After decades of having a murder conviction attached to his name, Adnan Syed is now a free man. State's Attorney Marilyn Mosby announced Tuesday morning that charges have been dropped against Syed after a new round of DNA testing was not a match for Syed.
There was a DNA mixture of multiple contributors on both Miss Lee's shoes. The same multiple contributor for both of Miss Lee's shoes. And most compellingly, Adnan Syed, his DNA was excluded.
Syed was charged and convicted in the 1999 murder of his Woodlawn High School ex-girlfriend Hayman Lee. But Syed maintained his innocence for the 23 years that he was behind bars. Then in September, his attorneys, in partnership with the Baltimore City State's Attorney's Office, announced that 2 other suspects were discovered. A judge then vacated the conviction. State's Attorney Marilyn Mosby says her focus has shifted to find justice for Hayman Lee.
We will continue to utilize every available resource to prosecute whoever is responsible for the death of Hae Min Lee.
See, and then, and that was the hope, I think, for a lot of people, was that maybe they could actually figure out what happened to her. But now, with everything that is happening with his case, and I think I kind of missed this little detail of why his conviction was recently reinstated. So the motion to vacate hearing, so the motion was filed on a Friday. The hearing was then scheduled for the following Monday. Hae Min Lee's brother, I guess, lives in California, so he states he wasn't given enough time to make it up to the hearing. They did allow him to, appear by Zoom because, he does have a right to speak at this sort of thing. But his appeal, I'm baffled. So I don't think that they matched the DNA to anybody else, K-Braze. I think they just found a mixture, but it didn't match anybody because they might have to put it through the system. I don't know if it was like a good quality DNA sample. I just know that they, excluded Adnan. But because Hae's brother appealed, the hearing, he wanted to be there. He felt he didn't get enough time. They actually reinstated his conviction, which is mind-blowing to me.
Yusuf Syed told WJZ that his brother Adnan Syed couldn't believe the news when he heard it this morning.
We're just in shock, We're so happy and excited that, this nightmare's over. We can finally move on with our life.
Rabia Chaudhry, Syed's childhood friend who pushed the case into the spotlight, told WJZ his ankle monitor came off earlier today.
It's off. He's done. He is a free man. It is all over.
State's attorney
But it's not. That's the most heartbreaking part, is it's not.
Mosby said no more appeals will come in this case because the charges have been dropped. Before Tuesday's announcement, Hae Min Lee's family had filed a notice of appeal at the end of September, requesting that the case be put on pause while the appeal is heard. The Lee family attorney, Steve Kelly, now acknowledges any further moves will be an uphill battle.
So this is, I believe, the attorney that represented the brother at the motion to vacate.
They're very sad. I think they feel very hopeless about any future justice being brought for Hae, and they just feel really, really betrayed and blindsided.
In an online recording earlier today, Adnan Syed's attorney says she hopes an investigation will, number one, bring real answers and a sense of closure for Hae Min Lee's family. Live at 6, Avajoy Burnett for WJZ.
All right, thank you, Avajoy. If you have our WJZ...
There's actually some more on this one.
This is our video from March 12, 1999. It was a memorial for Hae Min Lee at Woodlawn High School. It took place just months after her body was found in Leakin Park. You could see faculty, friends honoring Lee with praise and song. Lee's mother and grandfather moved to tears as they're given plaques in memory of their daughter. Her friends taking to the podium to talk about how Lee was such a special person.
To see what the end's gonna be.
All she had to do was smile and everything felt all right.
Now that last clip was Hae Min Lee's grandfather grieving over the loss of his granddaughter. 2 trees planted in Lee's memory during this ceremony. Her jersey was retired.
Not only have we stayed on top of it since day one, we were also the first Baltimore TV station to speak with Syed's family on camera. This is video from my 2019 interview with Syed's mother and brother at their Woodlawn home.
Oh, his poor dad. He's like bouncing. He's like, get me out of here. Hey, Georgia, pear. I always want to say peach.
Home. His father was actually there as well, but he was just too distraught to speak on camera. You can tell from the interview, the entire family was crushed. From the beginning to now. How would you describe what your life has been like?
We don't have no life any.
His mom, I love his mom.
We are not like a normal family anymore.
You see, at the time, there were a lot of tears, but tonight, the family is rejoicing knowing Adnan is a free man.
So he's still free, FYI. He's still free. He's still home. He's not like going back to prison.
So while we're looking back in time, it's worth asking, how did we go from this photo with Syed behind bars for more than 2 decades to this photo of Syed walking out of prison and eventually, now, today, becoming a free man? It has been a long road. Rick Ritter joins us in the studio to walk us through it.
Now, a lot has played out over the years, so let's take a look back so we can remember how we got here. Well, this, of course, begins with the killing of 18-year-old Hae-Min Lee. Back in 1999, Lee left Woodlawn High School in Baltimore County.
Yes, Sunnyside. His mom is still alive. I think she was diagnosed with stage 4 cancer. So that was like a big thing in the documentary, was that, like, you know, they just really wanted to get Adnan out to at least enjoy his parents while he could.
And was never seen alive again. Someone found her body buried in a shallow grave in Leakin Park nearly a month later. Now, in the year 2000, Syed found guilty of murder, robbery, false imprisonment, and kidnapping, and he was sentenced to life in prison. Now, fast forward 14 years. That's when the popular podcast Serial, that premiered, and it focused on Syed's case, bringing in new witnesses and casting doubt on the testimony in his trial. Serial then led to a victory for Syed. After several hearings in 2016, a judge in Maryland then decided to grant him a new trial. But that victory, well, quickly turned into another defeat. In 2019, when...
He was, I think it was, what, did they say 2017? He was already granted a new trial. And then they reversed the decision. I mean, they've been yanking him back and forth this whole time.
Maryland's highest court decided Syed would not, in fact, get a new trial after all. And then the Supreme Court declined to hear that case. And here we are, just last month, when prosecutors asked the judge to vacate Syed's conviction. Now, we all remember the moment Syed walked out of that courthouse and headed home with his family. And that brings us to today, then. As Avajoy Burnett just told you, it's the new DNA test results that we've been waiting for and have sparked the city-state's attorney's decision to drop all of the charges against Syed, officially clearing his name now and making him a free man.
Thank you, Rick. Now, if you'd like to know more about this story, WJ...
Okay, so that was obviously when they dropped the charges. So now there is a clip of so we'll actually go to this one, because I think a lot of this takes place after the appeal happened, and then they were going to issue, I think it was the Maryland Supreme Court had to issue the ruling that came out yesterday. So we have this clip and then one more, which is the actual ruling, and that's where we stand today. Okay.
I'm Mike Helgen, and this is Journey to Justice, the Adnan Syed story. I'm here in Baltimore County at the Woodlawn Library, and this is where Syed says he was when Hae-Min Lee, his classmate at Woodlawn High School, was killed back in 1999. On Thursday, Maryland's Supreme Court will hear arguments that could send him back to prison or permanently secure his freedom. The case first made local headlines after Hae-Min Lee's murder in the winter of 1999.
Tonight, Syed is spending his first night behind bars.
Personally, from knowing him, I've known him over 10 years now. I don't think he did it.
Eyewitness News was there tonight when devastated family members first found out about the teen's arrest, an arrest that Lee's family says brings them much-needed peace.
I just want to see justice done.
The case gained national attention through the podcast Serial, which exposed flaws with the prosecution.
No one ever been able to provide any shred of evidence. And it had anything but friendship towards her, like love and respect for her. And I had no reason to kill her.
Syed, now 36, has spent more than half of his life behind bars. His case received renewed interest after Serial raised questions about his conviction in 2016. The 12-episode podcast was reportedly downloaded more than 175 million times, the most ever for a podcast.
I don't think we'd be where we are today without Serial.
Last month, Syed held his first ever news conference and alleged misconduct by prosecutors early on in the case.
Okay, so this is Adnan held his own press conference with like a PowerPoint and everything. So they're going to show clips of that, kind of outlining the prosecutional misconduct.
He offered no direct evidence establishing that Mr. Syed caused the death of Miss Lee, and his case was largely dependent on witness testimony, which the state readily admitted was conflicting and problematic. So I do understand that this case has generated and has received a tremendous amount of attention over the past 6 or 7 years or so. And one of the things that has generated so much attention about this case is that people have come to understand what prosecutorial misconduct is. And the definition of prosecutorial misconduct, like in layman's terms, is essentially when the prosecutor behaves unethically in not disclosing evidence or presenting false testimony or false information to the court in order to sway the court or to sway the jury. We're fortunate to have people who care deeply for, who care about our family.
An emotional Adnan Syed called on the Maryland Attorney General to investigate allegations 2 former prosecutors acted inappropriately, and he claims interfered in the murder case against him.
To essentially report a crime, to present a series of information to say, respectfully, sir, our rights were violated. We're asking that you please investigate it.
Syed was released from prison 1 year ago for the 1999 murder of his Woodlawn High School classmate, Hae-Min Lee. His life sentence vacated at the time. But a Maryland appellate court reinstated the conviction on the grounds Lee's family was not given appropriate notice. In 2 weeks...
Like I said, I get the victim's family have rights. There are victims' rights, but to reinstate a conviction because of that, I'm like, let's just do the hearing again, right? Can we just do the hearing again and have him, have the family be able to be there? Just do everything the same. My heart breaks for him.
Weeks, Maryland's Supreme Court will decide whether to send Syed back to prison or again throw out his conviction. How do you prepare yourself mentally for the possibility that you may have to go back to prison?
I know I had nothing to do with Hae's murder, that I'm absolutely an innocent person. And I've always fought hard, and we've always fought hard to find justice for Hae and to prove who is responsible for it. So I would keep my faith in that. And that's what's held me intact for all these years.
Syed claims a former prosecutor in the Attorney General's office, who's now a Baltimore County judge, overreached and helped secure a lawyer for the Lee family last year.
My younger brother, when he was little, he would tell me, man, I heard Mom crying last night. Because every single day is a nightmare for her. So this idea that's being put forward that this hearing was held despite Hae's family and despite young Lee is completely false. And no one would consider that perhaps the reason why this hearing was held quickly was because to respect my family and their suffering.
Yeah, and that's another thing is that I feel like it's always said, you should always try and err at the side of justice. So that's why, the hearing happened so quickly. He had spent 23 years in prison for something he didn't do.
Also says prosecutors withheld information that someone else threatened to kill Lee, which former State's Attorney Marilyn Mosby's office revealed last year. He claimed...
Yeah, so there was a note in the file saying that somebody had actually threatened Hae-Min Lee's life.
Once he regained his freedom, a former prosecutor then leaked information to discredit that threat.
We have the utmost respect for Hae's family and for everything that they want to do to get justice for Hae. And we feel this way because we've always wanted justice for Hae. We've always wanted justice for her family.
When we come back, more on the victim, Hae-Min Lee.
The family is disappointed with the way they were treated. They're disappointed with the process. They want to, more than anybody, to have a person who killed Hae-Min Lee brought to justice.
Hae-Min Lee was last seen alive in January of 1999. Her body was found 1 month later in Leakin Park. She had been strangled. Syed claims he was here at the Woodlawn Library at the time Lee was killed, and he had an alibi witness, Asia McClain Chapman.
Who surprisingly wrote a letter to Adnan right after he was arrested. Was she questioned by police? Nope.
He says prosecutors discouraged her to come forward with her story, and she has not backed down, as she told me in a recent interview.
Every action that they have taken thus far shows nothing but a willingness to bury Adnan and bury the truth about what really happened to Hae.
In a rare interview, Asia McClain Chapman, the alibi witness for Adnan Syed, tells WJZ she agrees with Syed's allegations of prosecutorial misconduct.
So Asia McClain, she comes forward. This is her affidavit.
I completely stand with Adnan's reasoning. And I think his accusations are valid. And I think that they do warrant an investigation.
She was doing what the authorities say do all the time. If you see something, if you have some information, come forward. And she was vilified for it.
At a news conference Tuesday, Syed laid out problems with his case. He claims former prosecutor Kevin Urich falsely testified under oath that Syed's family pressured Chapman to say she was with him in the Woodlawn Library when their classmate Hae Min Lee was murdered in Leakin Park in 1999.
What Kevin Urich testified to in regards to my conversation with him was untruthful. I know 100% that he manipulated me as someone who is unfamiliar with the legal system.
I feel like that is something that they do. You know, they assume people are unfamiliar with the legal system. They're unfamiliar with their rights. And so they'll just try and take advantage of that.
And he 100% abused my trust in him.
Urich gave us this statement. Mr. Syed's desperation appears to grow with each passing day. He has demonized and vilified every witness, investigator, and prosecutor involved in this case. These latest developments follow the pattern he has established as he makes baseless claims.
Regardless of what people feel about Adnan, he has served his time. It is time to allow all parties involved in this situation to move forward.
Chapman claims prosecutors mistreated her and tried to hide her alibi.
Adnan came in, he sat at the table, and we weren't really close friends or anything like that, but we knew each other.
She says they were high school students then, hanging out at this library after school at the same time prosecutors say Lee was being murdered in a park about 3 miles away.
Even now, it would be nice if there was some technicality, something that would prove his innocence.
I think, Asia, like, you might be that technicality.
I had nothing to go on but a he said, she said situation. So I think that if there is more evidence showing a pattern and a history of misconduct between those two individuals, that they 100% need to be held accountable for their actions and their behaviors.
Chapman has not met with Syed since his release, but tells us she hopes that he does not end up back in prison.
My only hope for him is that he gets to maintain his freedom and that he is able to go on and live a normal life. I would be over the moon to see him married with children at a soccer game like I was yesterday.
When we come back, the plea deal. Hae Min Lee was last seen alive in January of 1999. Her body was found 1 month later in Leakin Park. She had been strangled. Syed claims he was here at the Woodlawn Library at the time Lee was killed, and he had an alibi witness, Asia McLean Chapman. She says prosecutors discouraged her to come forward with her story, and she has not backed down, as she told me in a recent interview.
Every action that they have taken thus far shows nothing but a willingness to bury Adnan and
Did we just see this part? Oh, I feel like they just played that over again. Okay, so let's see. Let's see what else Adnan has to say.
At his news conference, Adnan Syed spoke about being offered a plea deal by the Attorney General's office in the past, but says he couldn't take it because he was innocent, even if it meant he got to leave prison early.
What ended up happening was in 2018, the Attorney General at the time, he offered me a secret plea deal. They conducted DNA testing in secret, and he offered me a plea deal, and the plea deal was that if I plead guilty, I'd be able to come home in a few years. And the condition...
Yeah, I think they said, like, give us 3 more years. And Rabia was like, no, Adnan, you give me 3 more years and you'll be free.
...of this plea deal and the DNA testing was that neither me nor my attorney could publicly say anything about this. And if anyone may or may not remember, from 2016 to 2019, there was a tremendous amount of media attention on this case. Anytime someone went to court, anytime someone did anything, there was coverage. And the previous Attorney General's office was given multiple statements. They would issue multiple proclamations denying the fact that I was innocent and working hard to secure this conviction. But secretly behind the scenes, I was being offered this plea deal. So we couldn't understand what was this behavior based on.
After his release, I sat down with Syed's attorney, Erica Suter. She also spoke about that plea deal.
A life sentence in Maryland, up until pretty recently, meant a death in prison sentence. You're not going to get out. Adnan's sentence is life plus 30. But in order to accept that deal, he would have had to admit, he would have had to say that he was guilty of this crime, and he was not willing to do it. You know, he did not want to live a lie, and I think what he'd said was that he'd be trading one prison for another. You know, he would have his so-called freedom, but he would now forever be looked at in this way, and he knew that it wasn't the truth.
And that means a lot, I feel, you know. He's always maintained his innocence. He's never, you know, faltered on any of that.
I would in no way judge him whatsoever if he had chosen to take that deal. I can't imagine sort of the circumstances of his incarceration for such a long period of time. I think it would have been a reasonable thing to do, but for him, he couldn't live with it.
Suter also talked about that moment when Syed was released last year in Baltimore City.
It was overwhelming. Adnan started to cry. I started to cry. I was thankful for having that minute as a courtroom cleared to try to get myself together. It was surreal. To imagine what it is like for him, a 17-year-old child, and his mother and brother seated behind me in the courtroom, to believe in their child's innocence and to watch that child get, you know, snatched away from them and spend 23 years incarcerated. I think it's important and it matters that somebody stand up and say out loud for the whole world to see that Adnan Syed is innocent.
Ahead, lawyers battle it out.
One thing that you see in this case that you see commonly is tunnel vision, right? So the investigation narrows down to one individual for whatever reason, and they're so focused on that individual that they will disregard other evidence, not properly look into other leads. And you definitely see that in this case.
Yup.
It was former Baltimore City State's Attorney Marilyn Mosby who ultimately pushed for Adnan Syed.
So now what we'll do is we're going to go to, I believe this is going to be from yesterday. So this news broke. So basically the appeal went to the Maryland Supreme Court. They heard, oh God, I want to say they heard his case like 10 months ago. Yeah, 10 months ago. And okay, actually, you know what? We'll actually go to that one real quick. So this is from 10 months ago, and this was when they appealed to the Maryland Supreme Court.
Had the ability to speak in person before the judge who made that decision, and the Supreme Court has to decide whether Syed should be sent back to prison if that was a violation. It's a case involving victims' rights, and both Lee's attorneys and Syed addressed the media today.
Today was an important day for the state of Maryland, and in particular, it's an important day for victims' rights. The Maryland Supreme Court today heard argument regarding victims' rights and what victims' rights mean with respect to the Adnan Syed saga. We do not take a position with respect to Adnan Syed's underlying guilt or innocence. This is not what today was about. Today was about young Lee, who was here today, and his rights to have notice.
So if it's not about the case, then why? I don't get why they reinstate his conviction. Like, just do the hearing again. Like, is that too much to ask?
Be present and to be heard meaningfully in a criminal justice proceeding. Those rights were violated in this process. Mr. Lee was not given adequate notice, was not given the right to attend the criminal.
But he was given, okay, so here's the issue, is he was given a right to attend. I believe they notified him first. I mean, I get, like, on a Friday and, like, you know, having to get all the way across the country on a, like, over the weekend, but I don't know.
Justice proceeding, and was not giving a meaningful right to be heard. That's all we're asking for. The Maryland Constitution provides that victims be treated with dignity and respect and sensitivity. Those rights were denied as well here. And we're asking the Maryland Supreme Court to uphold those rights, to send this case back down to the trial court and mandate that the state present evidence, whatever evidence it has, so that we can see that evidence, we can examine that evidence, and you, the public, can examine that evidence so that we all can make a judgment as to what happened here. That's.
So what evidence? Is he talking about the evidence of the case? Like, oh.
What this case is about, and we're hopeful that the Supreme Court of Maryland does the right thing. Any questions?
I have a question. Mr. Rubin, you said repeatedly that Mr. Lee has the right to be an adversarial check on the state and the defense attorneys in this case. he doesn't have that right in the initial prosecution. Why does he have the right to provide a check and balance out what the court's decision? Why does he get that right in the post-conviction proceedings when during the initial proceedings he doesn't have that right?
In the initial proceeding, the state was playing that role. As was discussed in the court today, you have a very unusual law here in which you align the interests of the state and the defendant entirely. The state moves on the defendant's behalf. The state acts as a zealot advocate for the defendant. The problem here was the adversarial process that existed in the original trial was eliminated completely, and 20 years of appellate law was thrown out in less than an hour. That was the issue, and that's why the victim's role is so crucial.
But if they agreed based on the evidence that was provided in Chambers hearing, why is that an issue?
Because when a court makes a decision, it's necessary for the public and all parties to be able to review the evidence. It is uncanny unless a particular hearing is closed or there's a reason stated on the record to keep the evidence secret.
But do they think that him being there and hearing it would change the outcome?
There is no situation in which you can actually make a decision based on secret evidence. That goes against the entire notion of an open judiciary. So that's what's before this court now.
And I would add one thing. It's important to note that when you are charged with a crime, you're presumed to be innocent. When you're convicted of a crime, you're presumed to be guilty. And in order to overturn a guilty verdict, it's incumbent upon the state to present evidence openly. And it didn't happen here. And as a result of it not happening, we're here today.
But it did.
We simply want transparency and openness in the system and an ability to challenge evidence if it is challengeable. As Mr. Rubin said, if there is sufficient evidence here to show that the verdict in this question should be called in this
Oh my God, there's totally a fly on his glasses.
case should be called into question, Young Lee and we would be the first ones to acknowledge that and say that Adnan Syed should be set free. But that hasn't happened yet. And what we're simply asking for is that the state present that evidence.
I was wondering if you or Mr. Lee or...
But it was see, and that's where I'm getting like the evidence was presented. He just wasn't there physically in the courtroom.
We are grateful to have had the opportunity to present our argument to the Supreme Court. Adnan has been home with his family for a little more than a year now, after decades of fighting to prove his innocence. This appeal is about whether Mr. Lee's rights were satisfied by his remote attendance at the vacatur hearing, and whether the state had the power to decide it no longer wished to prosecute a case it did not believe in. Yet it is Adnan whose liberty is at stake. The death of Heyman Lee and the loss suffered by her family is unquestionably tragic. So too is the incalculable loss that Adnan and his family have suffered when he spent over half his life in prison for a crime he did not commit. We look forward to the court's decisions, and we're hopeful that the justices will choose to leave Adnan where he is, where he belongs, with his family. Adnan would like to make a comment.
We just wanted to say thank you to everybody for over all these years who just provided us with all the support and the encouragement. Our family just means so much to us, and we look forward to hearing the court's decision, and we're hoping that in the end, we'll have a chance to prove justice, not just for Hay's family, but for our family as well. We believe very strongly in trying to find justice for Hay and her family, and we're just hoping also that we're able to find justice for us too. Thank you.
Maryland Supreme Court justices will not make a ruling today, but they should rule soon. We'll keep you updated. In Annapolis.
Okay, so that was 10 months ago. They just ruled yesterday. Holy moly. Okay, so now we will go to... Okay. Last little clip. This is going to be, like I said, from yesterday. The news broke. My heart broke.
Well, even though the High Court reinstated his murder conviction, Adnan Syed remains a free man tonight. His fate, however, lies in the hands of a new set of prosecutors.
It was 2 years ago when convicted killer Adnan Syed walked out of the courthouse a free man. At a hearing just minutes earlier, a judge had agreed with prosecutors that Syed should be set free.
This morning, I instructed my office to dismiss the criminal case against Adnan Syed.
But what prosecutors failed to do, according to the victim's family, was give them adequate time to attend the hearing. The family of victim Heyman Lee lives on the West Coast and was given 1 business day's notice that the hearing would take place.
Nobody really wanted to hear from this family because they just didn't want... There's no one else who had standing to raise questions about this. And the only person was the victim, and if you can shut the victim out of this process...
And I don't think that was the point, to shut the victim out of the process. I mean, I get it. It's a touchy subject. what the victim's family would act as the prosecution in this case because the prosecution is trying to overturn it. I don't know.
Then you can make this process run more smoothly.
And now Maryland Supreme Court agrees, saying prosecutors failed to ensure the victim's family had a reasonable opportunity to attend, writing, in an effort to remedy what they perceived to be an injustice to Mr. Syed, the prosecutor and the circuit court worked an injustice against Mr. Lee by failing to treat him with dignity, respect, and sensitivity. The High Court reinstated Syed's murder conviction and ordered a new hearing be held.
That doesn't mean that he's going back to prison, but it does mean that there will be a full and fair hearing on the vacatur with the victims represented.
The fate of
Okay, so they're going to redo the hearing.
This case,
I kind of said.
This is now in the hands of Baltimore State's Attorney Ivan Bates, who took office after the case was dismissed.
They're going to have to take a look at how viable their underlying case is. Are there really witness problems?
In reference to the ruling that came out of the Adnan Syed case, I'm not going to comment or talk about that now. It's unfair to the family here.
Bates wasn't talking today about the direction he plans to take.
The good thing is Ivan Bates, I feel like, kind of knows that there was some misconduct in this case.
But a year ago, Bates was talking about the DNA evidence prosecutors used to set Syed free.
Just because, some DNA is not found on something, that doesn't mean that the case isn't viable. And just because it's found on something doesn't mean the case is viable. I'll look at all the facts, I'll look at all the evidence, and then if I have to, I'll make that decision.
Well, attorneys for Syed say they strongly disagree with this decision, saying that it is a roadblock, but they have faith justice for Syed will prevail once and for all. We're live tonight. Jeff Abel, Fox 45 News.
Alrighty. Well, I guess they're going to redo the motion to vacate hearing, or the vacatur. Is that what they call it? The vacatur hearing? So hopefully, I just hope this is over for Adnan's family soon. I also hope in that, this being over for Adnan's family soon, they can focus on actually finding out what happened to Heyman Lee. Because, like I said, I don't know if they've ran the DNA that they found on her body through any systems. I don't know what the process is for that, if they can just do it. Or if they have to have a judge, sign off on that. I don't know how that works. But I think, hopefully we'll be able to get some answers for both families, because, a wrongful conviction doesn't help anybody. It takes away from the actual case at hand, I believe, and is no justice for any victims. So, well, there you have it, guys. That was my true crime hat for the, the month. Actually, I do have another case I want to talk about, but it's not necessarily crimes as in people are, hurt, at least physically, or lives are taken. But I did come across this case that is kind of wacky, a little bit more, white collar crimes. So I thought it would be a nice palate cleanser for all this shit that's happening around here. So thank you guys for hanging out with me on Saturday. And if you guys are replaying, thank you so much for replaying. Like I said, I will try and update this case as updates come out. 'Cause this one has, tugged at my heartstrings. I just feel so bad for both families. Not having answers on one side is, its own battle, but poor Adnan losing basically almost his entire life in prison. So, well, thank you guys for being here again. Hopefully you guys will hit the like for me on your way out. Stay safe out there. Stay safe on the streets. I hear they're a little messy especially right now. But Soflo and I will be talking about that on the Housewives, so make sure you guys are looking out for that. I think we're going to be live on Monday. So hope you guys have a great rest of your day, and I will see you next time.
Aymackk talking smack, we're out of here. Got the hottest takes, let's make that clear. Reality docs and podcasts too. We've talked it all, now it's time to bid it due. But don't you worry, we'll be back again with more fire content. We always bring the win. Aymackk talking smack, signing off the track. We brought the heat and we'll be back. So hit that like and don't forget to sub. We're always here to keep it real, no dub. We dissected, debated, and broken it down. Aymack's got the buzz all over town. From reality drama to podcast flair, you know with Aymackk we're taking it there. Aymackk talking smack, signing off the track. We brought the heat and we'll be back. So hit that like and don't forget to sub. We're always here to keep it real, no dub. We dissected, debated, and broken it down. Aymack's got the buzz all over town. From reality drama to podcast flair, you know with Aymackk we're taking it there.